The Mathematics of Life, written by Ian Stewart. Introduction: When Numbers Meet Nature. Life is messy. It breathes, mutates, stumbles, and thrives in ways that often defy prediction. Yet hidden beneath the chaos of biology lies a secret structure, a quiet order waiting to be decoded. Over the past century, a remarkable transformation has taken place. Mathematics, once confined to physics and engineering, has begun to reshape the way we understand life itself. From the spirals of sunflower seeds to the curves of fish schools and the mutations of genes, the language of math is finding its place in the beating heart of biology. This isn't just a meeting of disciplines, it's a revolution. The Mathematics of Life proposes that biology is no longer merely descriptive. It can be predictive. Patterns that once seemed accidental can now be modeled. Complex systems, from blood circulation to brain activity, are yielding to equations. Evolution, once sketched in narrative, is now mapped in probability. The rise of mathematical biology has not come easily. For decades, the two disciplines eyed each other warily. Biology soaked in messy observation, math absorbed in abstraction. But the barriers began to fall as new tools emerged. Computers allowed simulations of stunning complexity. Big data enabled pattern recognition across species and scales. And as geneticists began to decode DNA, mathematicians found themselves at the center of biology's biggest questions. In this journey through cells, species, and symmetries, we explore how math helps us understand the most complex system we know: life itself. This is not a book about formulas. It is about ideas. How mathematics uncovers the underlying architecture of the living world and reshapes our place within it. Chapter 1: The 6 Big Revolutions in Biology. The modern story of biology is one of successive revolutions, seismic shifts that redefined what life is and how we study it. The Mathematics of Life traces 6 of these upheavals, beginning with the invention of the microscope. When early scientists first peered into drops of water and saw a teeming world of cells and microbes, biology was born as a science of the unseen. The second revolution came with the classification of species, most famously by Linnaeus. Naming and categorizing organisms gave structure to the living world, paving the way for deeper exploration. Then came Darwin's theory of evolution, a conceptual explosion that provided biology with its first grand unifying idea: natural selection. But while evolution offered a narrative, it lacked mechanism. That would come next. The fourth revolution, genetics, began to unveil the molecular basis of inheritance. From Mendel's peas to the double helix of DNA, biology moved from fieldwork to the laboratory. This led to the fifth revolution, the discovery of life's building blocks. Biochemistry reduced organisms to reactions, revealing the logic of metabolism and cellular communication. The sixth, and current, revolution is the rise of mathematics itself within biology. Thanks to computing, modeling, and data analysis, we can now simulate ecosystems, predict epidemics, map neural networks, and decode genomes. Mathematics no longer merely supports biology, it helps define its frontiers. Each of these revolutions built upon the last, creating a more complete picture of life. And in each, mathematics played a growing role, moving from the background to the foreground. As biology becomes more quantitative, the future of life sciences looks increasingly mathematical. Chapter 2: Patterns in Nature, from Shells to Spirals. Nature loves patterns. We see them in the symmetry of snowflakes, the spots on leopards, the stripes of zebras, and the spirals of pine cones. For centuries, these patterns were admired but unexplained. Now, mathematics is revealing how and why they emerge, and what they tell us about the deeper rules of life. One of the most striking examples is the Fibonacci sequence in plant growth. Many flowers and seed heads follow a pattern of spirals that match Fibonacci numbers. The arrangement of leaves on a stem, called phyllotaxis, often optimizes sunlight exposure and space efficiency, outcomes driven by mathematical principles. Alan Turing, better known for breaking Nazi codes, also laid the foundation for understanding biological patterns. In his work on morphogenesis, he showed how simple chemical interactions, now known as reaction diffusion systems, could produce complex shapes and markings. Spots, stripes, and swirls could arise not from genetic instructions alone, but from the interplay of diffusing substances. These mathematical models explain how identical species can develop different patterns based on small shifts in initial conditions. They show that life doesn't need detailed blueprints. It needs flexible rules and feedback loops. Patterns become a product of process, not design. But the significance goes beyond aesthetics. Understanding patterns helps reveal developmental pathways, disease markers, and even evolutionary strategies. Mathematics turns the visible into the measurable, and in doing so, transforms beauty into insight. Chapter 3: Symmetry, Shape, and Evolution. Symmetry is more than visual balance. It's a principle that governs much of biology. From the bilateral symmetry of humans to the radial symmetry of starfish, organisms display structured regularity that reflects both evolutionary history and developmental constraint. Mathematics helps us classify these symmetries and understand how they arise and change. In group theory, a branch of abstract algebra, symmetry is formalized through transformations that leave objects unchanged. These tools, first developed for crystals and geometry, now help biologists compare body plans, track mutations, and even understand viruses. Many viruses, like the adenovirus, adopt symmetrical polyhedral shapes because such structures are both efficient and stable. Evolution often favors symmetry because it conserves energy, facilitates movement, and aids reproduction. But it also allows deviations, subtle asymmetries that can signal health, strength, or adaptability. Mathematics helps quantify these shifts and trace their significance over generations. Topology, the study of shapes and their transformations, also finds fertile ground in biology. It helps explain phenomena like the folding of proteins, the shape of brain convolutions, and the behavior of DNA strands in tight spaces. In each case, it's not just the shape that matters, it's the way the shape can change without losing identity. By modeling form and function together, mathematics uncovers the underlying architecture of evolution. It shows that life is not built from scratch each time, but shaped by constraints, affordances, and pathways carved out over millennia. In this view, evolution is not just blind, it is mathematical. Chapter 4: The Logic of Life, Mathematics in Genetics. When the structure of DNA was discovered, it seemed as though biology had found its Rosetta Stone. But reading the genetic code turned out to be only the beginning. To understand how genes express themselves, mutate, and interact across populations, mathematics became essential. At the heart of genetic analysis is probability. Inheritance follows statistical patterns, whether in Mendel's peas or in complex traits like height and susceptibility to disease. Population genetics uses mathematical models to track how genes shift over generations, influenced by mutation, selection, drift, and migration. Game theory, too, has found its place in the study of genes. Evolutionary stable strategies, ways organisms behave to maximize reproductive success, can be modeled as strategic interactions. From the altruism of social insects to the aggression of competing males, behavior becomes a set of decisions shaped by genetic payoff. The Human Genome Project, once considered a moonshot, generated so much data that only computers and algorithms could make sense of it. Today, bioinformatics relies on pattern recognition, data compression, and machine learning to uncover meaningful sequences amid billions of nucleotides. Mathematics doesn't just analyze genetic information, it changes how we think about it. Genes are no longer isolated entities. They are nodes in networks, parts of systems whose interactions matter as much as their identities. The genome becomes less a blueprint and more a dynamic script, one that unfolds according to complex and quantifiable rules. Chapter 5. The Geometry of Growth and Form. How does a single cell become an elephant? How do tissues fold, organs shape themselves, and limbs form in just the right places? The answer lies in morphogenesis, the process by which form emerges from cellular behavior. And it is here that mathematics offers profound insight. Cells grow, divide, move, and communicate, responding to chemical gradients and mechanical stresses. These behaviors can be modeled using differential equations that describe how concentrations change in space and time. Feedback loops, thresholds, and bifurcations help explain how cells make decisions: when to become muscle, when to die, when to stop dividing. Fractals, geometric figures that display self-similarity at different scales, also play a role in biology. The branching of blood vessels, the structure of lungs, and the shape of ferns all follow fractal-like patterns. These forms optimize space, surface area, and resource distribution, qualities that mathematics can model with striking accuracy. Computational models simulate the development of embryos, showing how tiny differences in gene expression lead to vast differences in outcome. They reveal that development is not like building a machine, but more like growing a plant, guided by rules, but open to variation. Understanding form through math has medical implications too. Developmental disorders, cancer growth, and regenerative therapies all depend on how cells interpret space and signals. In each case, the equations don't replace biology. They help us see what's driving it from within. Chapter 6. Ecosystems and the Mathematics of Complexity. Life doesn't exist in isolation. Organisms interact in webs of competition, cooperation, and consumption. Ecological systems as intricate as any machine and as fragile as a whisper. Mathematics allows us to model these systems, revealing the thresholds, feedbacks, and tipping points that determine whether an ecosystem thrives or collapses. Predator-prey dynamics, famously modeled by the Lotka-Volterra equations, show how populations rise and fall in rhythmic cycles. These models help biologists understand food chains, species invasions, and the impacts of overhunting or habitat destruction. But real ecosystems are more complex, with multiple species, shifting climates, and nonlinear effects. Mathematical tools like network theory help untangle these complexities. Ecological networks map species as nodes and their interactions, pollination, parasitism, predation, as edges. Analyzing these webs reveals keystone species, critical connections, and vulnerabilities. It also helps us simulate what happens when parts are removed, a pressing concern in the age of extinction. Chaos theory, another mathematical breakthrough, explains why even simple systems can behave unpredictably. Small changes in weather, reproduction rates, or migration patterns can lead to dramatic shifts in population or climate. This sensitivity to initial conditions means ecosystems cannot always be controlled. but they can be understood. By quantifying complexity, mathematics gives conservationists a clearer picture of what must be protected and what might happen if it isn't. It also shows that balance is not a static state, but a dynamic dance, a mathematical choreography of life. Chapter 7: Brains, Behavior, and Biomathematics. The brain, long seen as the final frontier of biology, is also a frontier for mathematics. Neurons communicate through electrical impulses, forming networks of breathtaking complexity. But within the chaos lies structure. Mathematics is helping decode how brains learn, remember, and misfire. Neural modeling uses systems of equations to simulate how neurons respond to stimuli, fire in patterns, and synchronize in rhythms. These models illuminate everything from basic reflexes to the emergence of consciousness. They also help explain disorders like epilepsy, where electrical storms disrupt normal brain activity. Statistical tools allow researchers to analyze brain scans, track blood flow, and map neural connections, revealing patterns too subtle for human eyes alone. Machine learning algorithms can detect early signs of Alzheimer's or decode imagined movement in paralyzed patients. Mathematics also plays a role in understanding behavior. In evolutionary psychology, game theory models how cooperation and competition evolve. In animal behavior, algorithms decode flocking, schooling, and swarming, collective behaviors that emerge from simple rules followed by individuals. Even learning itself has been modeled mathematically. Reinforcement learning, a concept borrowed by artificial intelligence, mirrors how organisms adapt through reward and punishment. The boundary between biological and artificial intelligence grows thinner as math bridges both. Brains are not just bundles of biology. They are systems, dynamic, adaptive, and quantifiable. Mathematics doesn't replace intuition or experience, but it helps explain how minds emerge from matter and how behavior arises from circuits and cells. Conclusion: life rewritten in numbers. Mathematics has long been the language of the physical world. It describes the orbits of planets, the speed of light, the bending of steel. But now it is writing a new grammar, one for genes, cells, species, and brains. The mathematics of life doesn't reduce biology to equations. It enriches it, offering new ways to ask old questions and revealing patterns that were always there, waiting. What has emerged is not a mechanical view of life, but a dynamic one. Organisms are seen as systems, complex, adaptive, self-regulating. Evolution is no longer a vague tale of survival, but a field of quantifiable strategies. Development is not magic, but a process governed by rules that math can reveal. Behavior, once a mystery, now shows patterns that can be simulated, predicted, even engineered. This integration has just begun. As data grows, as computation becomes faster, and as mathematical tools become more refined, biology is transforming into a discipline that is not just descriptive, but predictive. This shift brings promise and responsibility. When we can model life, we must decide what to do with that power. In the end, mathematics doesn't strip biology of its wonder. It magnifies it. The spirals of a sunflower, the heartbeat of an embryo, the dance of a neuron, all follow rules more elegant than we imagined. Life, it turns out, is not just a story to be told. It's a system to be understood. And in that understanding, there is beauty. Thanks for listening.
Did you enjoy this book summary? Got ideas on how we can make it even better? Drop us a quick note. We're always listening and learning from you.